my brother to the chair. Don't let him burn. Please, please, Wharton, please.
Child stars who completely vanished from Hollywood then and now. They were once the biggest names in showbiz, child stars who ruled movie sets before they could drive, whose smiles sold magazines, and whose faces were more recognizable than the president's. But fame is fickle. Some faded quietly. Others burned out in tragic fashion. And a rare few walked away from it all. By choice. What really happened to these kids once the spotlight turned off? Some tales will break your heart, others might surprise you. So let's take a journey back in time and forward again to see what became of 20 unforgettable young stars who once defined an era and then disappeared. Bobby Driscoll, from Peter Pan to a forgotten grave.
Where is that villain, Captain Hook? I'll slice him up and throw him to that crocodile.
He was the original Disney Golden Boy, the voice behind Peter Pan, the star of Treasure Island, an Academy Award winner before he hit puberty. Bobby Driscoll had the kind of career most actors dream of, and he had it before age 14. But when his voice changed and his face broke out, the fairy tale ended. Disney dropped him cold. Not gently, not quietly, just gone. Suddenly labeled difficult and washed up, Bobby was left scrambling for purpose. What followed was a grim descent: drugs, arrests, estrangement from Hollywood, and eventually, homelessness. In 1968, kids exploring an abandoned building in New York stumbled upon a body. No ID, no name. He was buried in a pauper's grave on Hart Island. Years later, fingerprints revealed the heartbreaking truth. It was Bobby. The boy who once gave life to Peter Pan died nameless and forgotten. His real story darker than any Disney villain's tale. Margaret O'Brien, the girl who walked away on her own terms.
CM and Turner Classic Movies, I don't know what would have happened to Meet Me in St. Louis and all these wonderful movies.
Right.
Because when we first made the movie, MGM just made it for a theater and then it was put on the shelf.
Margaret O'Brien wasn't just another cute kid on screen. She could cry on command and break your heart with a single look. Her performances in films like Meet Me in St. Louis made her one of MGM's most bankable child stars, even earning her a juvenile Oscar. But when the scripts stopped coming in, Margaret made an unusual move for a child star. She didn't fight it. She walked away, gracefully. Instead of chasing a fading spotlight, she embraced a quieter life. She went to school, got married, and focused on her family. No scandals, no tragic spirals, just a peaceful departure from the chaos of fame. Today, she lives quietly in California and occasionally attends film festivals, where fans are stunned to find that little Margaret still wears the same warm smile. She's a rare example of a child star who left on her own terms and never looked back. Claude Jarman Jr., from movie sets to the Navy.
In 1949, the year was beginning, I had already made 4 films at MGM, and I went to make 2 more in 1949.
At just 12 years old, Claude Jarman Jr. captured hearts in The Yearling, playing a boy in the Florida wilderness who bonds with a deer. His performance won him an Academy Juvenile Award and a path to stardom. But Claude had other plans. By his teenage years, he was already thinking beyond Hollywood. He returned home, finished high school, and turned down comeback roles. Later, he went to Vanderbilt University, served in the Navy, and eventually ran the San Francisco International Film Festival. He never craved the spotlight. He used it to open doors and then quietly close them. Now in his late 80s, Claude Jarman Jr. lives a life far removed from child stardom, remembered not for a meltdown or scandal, but for walking away with dignity. Deanna Durbin, the star who disappeared on purpose.
Special awards for 2 juvenile players who have set a high standard of ability and achievement. Miss Deanna Durbin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bergen. You too, Charlie.
Oh, that's all right.
And now for the boy who has given the most to the screen in the past year.
I want to thank you for this great honor, Charlie. Huh?
You're not the boy.
Oh.
There was a time when Deanna Durbin was bigger than Shirley Temple. Her voice, her charm, her wholesome image. She was Universal's biggest moneymaker and reportedly saved the studio from bankruptcy. By 21, she was the second highest paid woman in the US. And then, she vanished. Durbin shocked Hollywood by quitting acting at the height of her fame. No scandal, no fall from grace. She simply decided she was done. She moved to a quiet village in France, married, raised a family, and refused to give interviews or comeback offers for the rest of her life. She passed away in 2013, having spent more time out of the spotlight than in it. Her disappearance wasn't a tragedy, it was a declaration. She didn't lose Hollywood. She left it. Brandon deWilde, the boy who never got to grow old.
I gotta know who I am. I gotta know what I'm like. I have never done anything right. I've been going around with my head in a sling for years.
If you've seen Shane, you remember him. The little boy crying out, "Shane, come back," became one of the most iconic moments in cinema. Brandon deWilde was a prodigy, Oscar-nominated at age 11. He made a rare transition into teenage and adult roles, acting opposite Paul Newman in HUD. His future looked bright. But in 1972, tragedy struck. While driving in Colorado, Brandon lost control of his vehicle and crashed into a truck. He died at just 30. No drugs, no scandal. Just a heartbreaking accident that ended a promising career far too soon. Brandon didn't disappear by choice. Life made that choice for him. Shirley Temple, from silver screen to diplomacy.
So much to me, being from my peer group in the Screen Actors Guild. And I think I started my career sort of.
Before the world had influencers, it had Shirley Temple. With her signature curls and dimples, she was the face of hope during the Great Depression, earning $50,000 per film at just 7 years old. But like all children, Shirley grew up. And Hollywood, brutal as ever, lost interest. She tried a few teenage roles, but nothing stuck. So at 22, she quietly left the industry and went on to become a diplomat. Yes, Shirley Temple Black represented the US at the United Nations, served as ambassador to Ghana and later to Czechoslovakia. She reinvented herself not with tabloid drama, but with grace, intelligence, and public service. When asked what advice she had for kids who wanted to act, she once said, "Don't." Message received. Baby Peggy, the silent star who lost everything. Before Shirley Temple, there was Baby Peggy. By age 6, she had already made 150 films and was earning what would today be $20 million a year. But the work was grueling. Her father managed her career with an iron fist, forcing her to work exhausting hours. And when her fame faded, as all child stardom does, so did the money. Bad investments and family mismanagement left her penniless. By age 8, she was forgotten. She changed her name to Deanna Sarah Carey and spent decades processing what had happened to her. In her later years, she became a writer and an advocate for child actors' rights. She passed away in 2020 at the age of 101, the last surviving silent film child star. Her early life was stolen, but she spent the rest of it fighting to make sure others wouldn't suffer the same fate. Jay North, the real story behind Dennis the Menace. He looked like the all-American boy. Jay North, aka Dennis the Menace, was one of the most recognizable kids on television in the early 60s. But behind the scenes, it was a nightmare. Jay's guardians emotionally abused him, pressuring him to smile, laugh, and perform perfectly. Or else. When the show ended, so did his childhood. He was typecast, deeply traumatized, and unable to find new roles. Eventually, Jay walked away. He joined the Navy. Later, he worked in juvenile corrections, far removed from the Hollywood fantasy he'd once lived. Today, Jay is open about the psychological toll of childhood fame. And though he rarely appears publicly, his story has helped shed light on the hidden cost of being a child star. These stories aren't just cautionary tales. They're reminders that behind every adorable face on screen is a real kid, often caught in a system that doesn't care what happens once the cameras stop rolling. Some found peace, some found purpose, others were lost entirely. But all of them remind us that fame, especially when it finds you too young, comes at a price. If you were surprised by any of these stories, hit that like button to support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe. Each subscription helps me buy more coffee to research forgotten Hollywood history for you. Which child star shocked you the most? And who should we cover next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read all of them,